Boy, oh boy, do I have a show for you today. I'm telling you something. I'm getting so mad at these corporations. Did you see that obnoxious Pfizer in-your-face satanic gyrating celebration of transgender values at the Grammys? I'm telling you what. It makes you want to say, what can we do? Well, I'll tell you one thing you could do. I'm going to introduce to you one organization. The guy's so smooth, so competent, so professional, so scientific that he's not a marketer. I'm going to do the marketing for him. I got a guest today that's going to talk to you about the analysis they're doing on woke corporate America. They are actually rating the corporations. They're putting it on a website for you so you can see on a scale of 1 to 5, 3 and above is a Judeo-Christian values company. Below 3 is the Marxist company sucking up your money to go to war against you. And I'm telling you, we've got to have organized response. These guys hit target when they were trying to put transgender bathrooms or something into their stores, and they mobilized an advertising campaign and like a boycott type thing. Bam, knocked like millions of dollars out of the company, and they changed their policy. That was like in 2018. I want you guys to go check out SecondVote.com because you've got the power to have your own vote, and it's what the vote on what the company does with your money. SecondVote.com. Use the promo code Lance, and you're going to be able to get your weekly update on what the warfare on the business mountain is all about, what they're doing, what companies are up to, and how you can be informed and you can put your money where it won't be used against you. Once again, SecondVote.com. Use promo code Lance. I want you to get that weekly newsletter. Sign up, support them. This is our side supporting the values that we believe in corporate America and pushing back on the takeover of the beast in the marketplace. SecondVote.com, promo code Lance. Let's get into the program. Welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show from coast to coast. I try to be the host that gives you the most in terms of prescient prophetic perspective on current events. That is my assignment. It's a rather narrow kind of demographic I'm shooting for. I'm looking for the enlightened spiritual warriors that see that America is in a conflict with the powers of darkness that seek to destroy it. And yet I also believe that there is enough righteousness and enough goodness solidifying in the midst of this great contest to be able to push back upon these powers. And I believe there is yet another great move of God in the loins of the United States, another awakening that will be part of a global movement. And I'm pushing for that. And with that thought in mind, I look for certain talent, certain stories, certain initiatives, activists, organizations, what have you. And we try to bring you the frontline feedback. You're not going to hear this on the news. By the time it gets to Tucker Carlson's desk, it's already in the National Enquirer. So I want to give you news before it happens. I want to talk to you about the breakdown and the invasion of corporate America. It used to be that you could trust at least business would remain neutral because it's bad for business to get involved with politics. Well, not anymore. Now you've got the corporate offices taken over by HR departments that are coming out of the lunatic factories of the universities where the most radical Marxist elements intentionally want to go into human resources so that they can shape the policy, the hiring practices, the boardrooms, etc. of corporations. And when you've got corporations that are like right now operating as an extension of Marxist ideas, how the heck can you survive as a capitalist in a Marxist world? Well, there's a way to do it. You kill all the small businesses so that it's only the big business working with government. That's essentially what fascism does. It's the government, the politicians working with the big business to employ the unemployed masses, and you control them in various ways. Well, I've got somebody who can educate us and tell us what to do. It's one thing to describe the problem. It's another thing to have a solution. And my guest today, David Black. Dr. David Black is the CEO and chairman and co-founder of an organization called Second Vote. We're going to be talking about that. Welcome, David. Thank you for joining us.
Lance, thank you very much for having me.
Now, I just got to talk for a minute about you, because I was surprised in reading about you that that you're Dr. David Black because you have a doctor's degree in forensic toxicology. Now, it's very rare that I talk to someone who's going to be a chairman of an organization that's a business organization with a background in toxicology. But then I kept reading, and for my viewers' purposes, Dr. Black served in the U.S. military Marine Corps. I was a combat veteran from combat in Vietnam, 10% disabled veteran right now, and so with that distinguished background, also with the forensic toxicology background, you were the department head and director of toxicology for Maryland Medical Laboratory. You joined Vanderbilt University in '86 as assistant professor with appointments in pathology and pharmacology. A clinical associate professor with an appointment in not only pharmacology and pathology, but microbiology and immunology at Vanderbilt. So when it comes to talking about drugs and it's a subject I want to go into for a second, because you were also the program administrator for substance abuse programs for NASCAR, IndyCar, and one of my favorite organizations growing up was the World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, because I grew up right near their headquarters in Connecticut. At least I had a church for 20 years that was near there. And when I raised my kids, we all watched the wrestling. So I'm familiar with the McMahons and the whole, and you work with them as a doctor with a drug rehab program. I have a veritable cornucopia of subjects to get into here with you. I want to land the plane on this, what's happening with woke corporations. But I got to ask you, this isn't going to go over well with my younger demographic listening. But can you talk to me about your research on the study and the pathology of the plant cannabis sativa? Is that what it's called? Sativa? Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, it's cannabis sativa. That's the genus and species of the plant everybody calls marijuana.
Oh, marijuana. So what did you find out about marijuana? It says it's such a popular drug that we're legalizing it. Any problems there?
Well, it's interesting. As I did my research and earned my doctorate degree on the subject matter, I studied the world's literature, and all I found throughout the world were concerns about its pathology and its toxicology. But I never found references where it had been accepted into medicine. It had been, on occasion, used as a plant for medicine, but it was never efficacious. It caused much more harm than good. And so my studies revealed to me, and through my thesis, that this is a harmful plant. And of course, at the time I was doing those studies, the psychoactive THC in the plant was about 3% by weight, whereas today's marijuana that's being promoted as THC content could be over 20%. And the chemical THC is hallucinogenic, it's psychedelic, it will cause paranoia, schizophrenia. I firmly believe, with California as the first state to legalize, that there's in my opinion, a direct relationship between the homeless population and the legalization of marijuana. The amotivational syndrome, or the unwillingness to work, is a very well-established relationship between chronic cannabis use and outcome, but also it is most certainly a gateway drug, and those that enter into its use do tend to graduate up to harder medications or drugs, not medications, but, well, medications and illegal drugs to sustain getting some psychological, physiological effect that they're desiring. So, in fact, earlier in my career, I would have said that cannabis or marijuana was not addictive when it had a lower THC content. But today's marijuana, I would have to testify, and I've done a lot of testifying in court, I would have to say it is not just a drug that leads to psychological dependency, but it would also lead to physiological dependency, and the two together would say it's addictive.
Psychological dependency, physiological dependency, therefore addictive. High levels of what THC, is that what you're saying, is what causes that addiction?
Yes, although there are many chemicals called cannabinoids in the plant, it's psychoactive THC that is really the most biologically active chemical in the plant, and it's the one that would interrupt normal central nervous system chemistry and even systemic chemistry to lead to dependency. and addiction.
My gosh. Well, David, am I mistaken in thinking that they're legalizing this? You know, it's funny. I listened to Jerry Brown, who was kind of the liberal governor of California, and it was hilarious to me. I listened to him when they were pushing the issue of legalizing marijuana while he was governor, and I thought, oh, here we go. But Jerry Brown was rather practical. He said, the last thing I want for the California economy is a whole bunch of stoned people who don't want to work getting more stoned and not working. And that was basically his logic. And I thought, well, if you got a liberal that's willing to call it out like that, there must be some evidence to this. And what you're telling me is there is a correlation between either the psychological desire to check out and the choice of marijuana, or the facilitating of that state of mind under the use of marijuana. Which one is it? Is it that it feeds a disposition of checking out, or that people that are naturally inclined to not want to work just want to get stoned to cope with life? Or which one is it?
I think it may be both. I think you can certainly precipitate a underlying condition that might lead to such behavior, but I think the drug itself could lead to that behavior. And I do think the random acts of violence that we're witnessing with the schizophrenia and the paranoia that can be a consequence of chronic cannabis use, I think there's also a correlation there.
I'll bet you, David, if we were called in to check out that guy that went in with the ball-peen hammer into the Pelosi house, that was, the lifelong, cannabis user with his activist causes, you'll see some schizophrenia and paranoid delusion going on there. And it's right on the front page of the news. California's probably going to have more incidents like this, I imagine.
Well, and the reason we've gotten here goes back again to big business, because it's really billionaires, a number of billionaires, who have helped fund the misinformation about the medical benefits of marijuana because they want to see it legalized. And in fact, legalization of marijuana is a stepping stone to legalization of all drugs, so that access to what are now controlled drugs would be removed. And we are already seeing jurisdictions that are legalizing or making available hallucinogenics, such as LSD and various other medications. So we're seeing a real campaign to remove controlled substance status for drugs that we know are harmful. The science, the medicine says that. And the consequence of that will be more disorder, more chaos in our society. But those that are funding it really do want to also be in, and we, about the marijuana stocks, the cannabis stocks. There's been this great hope that by getting marijuana legalized, and they know it's addictive. It's like tobacco. I mean, not exactly like tobacco, but the folks that are funding this misinformation to have legalization are looking through other avenues to capitalize. And they're already billionaires, but I've known a number of billionaires who still would like another billion or two. So
well, sure. And
I'm pretty cynical on it.
And it's sad, isn't it? It's because I look at those stocks and I say, well, I could make a return if I wanted to invest in some of that cannabis, but it's kind of like investing in. If you know that Pfizer is killing people irresponsibly or sponsoring satanic art at the Grammys, I feel conflicted about making a profit off of Pfizer. I maybe don't want to do business with certain companies, which seems to me to be an intelligent segue into the subject I really wanted to get into with you, which is what the heck is going on with these companies that go woke and these corporations that go woke. And we've got 12 minutes on this segment, and I don't want to lose 1 second of it. There's so much to cover here, but there is what motivated you to get involved with this, creating this thing called SecondVote, and explain to my audience what it is, because I think they're gonna love it.
Well, first, my wife Diane has served in the Tennessee state legislature and also in the United States Congress, and so she, through her political activities, I would, of course, become more knowledgeable of issues that she would be confronted with as an elected representative. But so I had somewhat of a perspective there with regard to what's happening in the legal side or the political side. But what really catalyzed the creation of SecondVote was every Sunday after church, we go to the local grocery store to shop for groceries, and at the checkout counter, I was asked to make a donation to the March of Dimes. And I did. And when we got outside, Diane asked me, "Why did you do that?" And as all husbands will agree with me, your wife asks you that all the time. But I asked her, why should I have not? And she said, "Well, don't you know that March of Dimes works with Planned Parenthood?" And I said, "No, I did not." I was shocked to learn that, because March of Dimes is to deal with diseases that children have, congenital diseases or other conditions that need treatment, and you have to have a child to treat the disease. I was just shocked to learn it. And that caused me to ruminate. It made me wonder, what else do I not know about where my money's going, whether donated or spent? And so it was March of 2012, had on a Saturday morning, 7 young techie men, Christian men. I posed to them about a question that we ought to ask is, what happens to our money after we spend it and or donate it? Started doing research and quickly identified that there are 6 Judeo-Christian issues or cultural values that are strongly under attack by the radical left. These would be the socialists, Marxists, the anti-American factions in our nation. And that these issues are strong, well-funded, and the funding comes from corporations, retail outlets, or products that we buy. It's from their profits that they donate. And it's our money that's really attacking our values. So the idea was to build a website and an app. And as we gathered this information, to share it with others so that they could make better decisions about who they donate their dollars to or where they might spend their money. And of course, it's challenging. It's interesting because this has been going on for decades, about this leftist turn of corporations, because they've really been under attack by the left. And activist employees within these major corporations have made a lot of headway. And I don't want to defend the boards that have allowed a lot of this to happen, but when you only hear the voice of one side of an issue, you begin to think, well, maybe everybody else believes that as well. So they haven't been hearing the other side. So one of the things that we do through our website and app is you can connect directly to the company. If you look at our research and how we've scored the company, and we take all of our research and turn it into a numerical score, scoring between 1.00 up to 5.00, with 3.00 being neutral, below 3 being leftist, radical, communist, above 3.00, you would kind of think this is just traditional Judeo-Christian America. And so through the website, we have our followers. They can directly contact an organization and a corporation and say, I don't like what you're doing. Would ask you to stop being engaged in politics. Or you can send a message to a company and thank them for not being engaged in politics. But we want our voice to be heard. And I will tell you, we've had quite a few victories over the time, but I would like you to know that March of Dimes was the donation that started this whole journey. And March of Dimes no longer works with Planned Parenthood. We have 2 letters from the CEO of March of Dimes on file where they asked us to change their scoring and change our research on them because they discontinued their relationship with Planned Parenthood. So we know that if our voice is heard, if we raise our voice, and if that voice is at least equal in volume, although we would like it greater than volume than the other side, and I think it could be, we can make a difference. And we've had a number of success stories.
Wow. Well, I want to hear the success story, but let me just break in there for a second because I don't want to lose the juice of what you said. There are 6 issues, primary Judeo-Christian issues, that are under attack by the left. It fits perfectly well with the BLM and Antifa and radical left critical race theory and the equity and diversity agenda of the Marxists. Really, revolution of American culture. They're forcing a change of American culture, and they're requiring compliance with it. And the corporations are requiring compliance with it as well. And these are well-funded with your money. That's the part that gets me. These corporations. So can you give me 1 or 2 of those issues that our audience might understand? What are these issues that they're funding against?
Well, of course, life is one of the big issues, the funding of abortion and now abortion travel policies. But we've always tracked, because we were launched out of the Planned Parenthood issue with March of Dimes, but we also have what we call basic freedoms, which would be the First Amendment. We also track who's attacking the Second Amendment. We look at, we research on environmental extremism. I am a scientist. I'm a quantitative scientist, what we would call the hard sciences. We could speak more to it, but I would just like to reassure the audience that the world is not going to come to an end in a few years, and that the environmental extremism message is not based upon science. It's based on suppositions and algorithms and ideology, but it's certainly not based on good science, and we could discuss that further. We also research education, because education has long been under attack, which is certainly more visible, especially with Disney and what they've been doing, but other organizations. And then we have civil safe society. This is a focus on research of which organizations are funding open borders, sanctuary cities, the attack on law enforcement. So if, maybe all these issues are important to you, or maybe one or two, or maybe only one.
I think as Christians, we resonate with all of them. And what happens for me is there's such a sense of overwhelm, which is, my gosh, from Starbucks to Disney, these are such ubiquitous corporate entities in our life. I need to know what companies do not work with. And this all is the subject we're talking about now. SecondVote, when I go there, Dr. Black, I could look at a score. You guys have research, and anyone who hears you knows that you're thorough in what you're doing. So we could get a score from -3 up to 3, or 3 positive above 3, right? And that will tell us
it's 1.00 up to 5.00. 3.00 is a neutral.
It's a neutral zone. So
so you go 2 points below or 2 points above.
All right. So tell me a victory, to give me an idea of how you guys make a difference, because I want to start focusing our laser power in a couple of directions. And this is going to be my call to action for the business mountain that I work with on my media. Let's get behind secondvote.com. They're on the front lines doing something. This is where your money can count. So talk to us about how you engage this battle and how you protect us.
Well, just so you know, our research that's available through the SecondVote website is focused on retailers and then nonprofits, and we do show the research we have that's behind the scoring. The scoring itself is rather challenging and complicated. It's called geometric mean analysis, and it's not just arithmetic. It's not like 1 + 1 = 2. It's much more complicated than that. We have a score for each single issue, and then we have a composite score. But we have had significant victories. For instance, when Target announced their transgender bathroom policies back in 2017, we took on Target that Christmas season. We had Anywhere But Target for Christmas as a landing page. We don't normally do boycotts or boycotts, but in this instance, we felt we had to do something more dramatic. We had 10 million visitors to our website, to our landing page. We brought down Target's revenues by over $1 billion, and their stock price came down by, I think it was, by memory, 30%. And wow. Of course, the difficulty with Target is that they're scored very low. I don't have all those scores memorized, but they're pretty close to a 1.00 on all the issues. And they're committed to the ideology. We had impact. We did encourage conservatives and Christians to shop elsewhere. But the reality is people have drifted back to the stores, and they now still shop there. And one of the challenges is to get people to really understand that it's a long-term play. It's a long-term effort we have to engage in. It's taken decades and decades to get to where we are. We have to be committed to our faith and our values, and we have to stay focused on this. And one of our taglines is shop local, give local, love local. The big international corporations, the big boxes that we're so used to shopping at, have entered into an unholy alliance with big government and with big media and big tech. And so these are all married together to drastically change in a very big negative way our society. And most of these big international American corporations are now tied up with Davos and the one world government movement, the elimination of nation states and the attack on faith worldwide, but especially here in America. The biggest thing that stands between the one world government and the Davos agenda is the American middle class. And it's the American middle class that has to be torn apart. And that's what we're seeing, because America's middle class, the worker bees, they are productive, they're people of faith, they attend church, they're raising families. And we have to create, or what they have to do is create this disorder, which is the fertile field for tyranny. And that's what we're witnessing in our society and corporations. Their CEOs have drifted away from their primary mission, which is to provide a great product and a great service and to treat their employees well. And, it's like Disney. I mean, how can Disney, which has a child as its customer or client, although they're brought there by their parents and grandparents, but how can Disney fund abortions, which destroys a child in the womb, or support gay marriage and gay relationships, which do not create a child? And, but Mattel does the same thing. Their business is toys for children. And what do they support with their profits? Abortion and a lifestyle that does not produce a child. And it's just, you got to wonder about who are the geniuses running these companies. It seems like you would want more customers, not fewer. And you would think that you would, rather than supporting abortion, you would support adoption and fertility studies and helping couples have children.
And Dr. David, the reality is we're out of time. And I would say everyone needs to go to SecondVote.com. You need to go there right now. Don't wait. Don't put it off. You want to put this in your browser. You want to check out those companies. My advice to you is it's not your disposition, but we gotta all pitch in and help you out. You know, you're part of the patriots that are out there. You're doing these things. A lot of these great men, like this man here, won't say this. I know his wife, Congressman Diane Black, what a great woman she has been as a conservative voice. But these guys sacrifice out of their own personal life in order to create these efforts to try to save America. And I think you need a Project Veritas type of energy with some young people getting involved with you there, because your 2017 campaign succeeded. You got 10 million hits. You probably grew that year because you went into the controversy. It's not the way you like to do things. I see that. It's not your disposition. But we have to take the battle to them, because they're taking it to us, and they're overwhelming us. Barna's latest research says that over 65 to 70% of Americans still affirm family values as their priority, which means that it's only because we aren't properly mobilized as a populist movement that these corporations don't feel the punch. And I don't think we can hit them all at the same time. I think you have to freeze the target, like Alinsky said. You got to pick your target, like Target or like Starbucks or like whatever, and you have to tell the story about what they're doing. You have to focus on that, knock down the shareholder value, get their board to realize it's either money or politics. We're going to go with money because that's their higher value, is money over politics. And we have to start to hit these, like with Disney, until Disney says, all right, we got the message. You don't want this agenda with your children. Got it. So you see, Second Vote is a place to go. SecondVote.com is where I want everyone to go right now. And is there any other way that we can get in touch with you, Dr. Black, people that are interested in further mobilizing and working with you? Any other information you want to give them?
Well, we welcome everybody to come and take a look at what we're doing, but we do have volunteers that help us out with, we have folks that are like regionally, they will let us know of businesses they think we should research, good, and those that may not be good. So, we actually have folks that participate with us on a volunteer basis to help us address these issues. And we really do need to create a larger group It's a minority that has radically changed our country. We just need a slightly bigger minority to offset them.
I'm with you.
We don't need that 65%. What we need is about 3 or 4% of the population to become a part of this.
We can do it. We can do our part out there. I got 100,000 of my people out there are ready to go to work as Wallnau's culture warriors. Dave Black, 1948 at gmail.com is one way. You that want to help, pitch in, be involved. Dave Black, 1948 at gmail.com. Someone gave me that email address. We can always delete this from the broadcast if it's not the right thing to do, but I'm going to throw it out there.
That's okay.
All right, good.
Love to hear from people. Love to hear from people.
All right, well, you guys let him know you're encouraging him, praying for him. He's a strong believer, him and Diane. And I want to thank you again, Dr. David Black, for what you're doing. And I pray that this broadcast is going to help put some juice on secondvote.com. Thank you very much, sir.
Lance, thank you for your prayers and for the show. Thank you.
You know what, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard David Black talk about just put his toe in the margin of what they're doing. I had a chance to talk to him off the air about how Disney is actually fighting. I mean, they're from open borders to anti Second Amendment. They bit the woke pill across the board. And so there's so much I want you to be informed about. It's incredibly important that you go to secondvote.com and use the promo code Lance so that you're getting a weekly update and summary of what they're doing with their research. The most meticulous, scientifically based research on corporate America that I know of. Go to secondvote.com, use promo code Lance, get their weekly report on what's happening in the business of business and how your money's being used against you. Promo code Lance, secondvote.com. Grab it now. Take action now. Don't put it off till later. If you wait till later, you won't do it. Do it now, because we're going to keep talking to you from time to time about the battle for the mountains, and this is one of our partners taking on the business mountain. Look forward to seeing you on our next show.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.